we're back to my first appetizer. My first appetizer. Before I say that, I'm going to get into something. I'm just going to make sure I add the appetizers every time.
Oh,
I got my countdown clock still running for Godzilla minus zero. We're at 190 days, 7 hours, 26 minutes, and 25 seconds until its release.
all
So
right.
I'm very anxious to get to the point where that's like not three digits on the days.
Yeah.
So we got a ways to go. But getting into solo leveling, I don't like to do anime series until I've seen the whole thing,
Right.
and I think this is probably going to get some more. But I've watched it till what's been released on it now, so I'm up to date on it.
And you're watching it on Crunchyroll?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and watched this one with the wife, and she got it into it as quickly as I did, which was a pretty good indication that it was worth watching. I'll say straight up, I think it's the best anime series I've watched since Attack on Titan.
Wow.
Uh,
That's high praise from you.
yeah, I watched a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's fun, it's funny, and stuff like this. This series really drew me in and kind of blew me away.
Well,
Um,
I know very little about it, but I have heard people talk about it like on the on the edges of my sphere of influence kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. This season one of this thing was released January of 25 through March of the same year.
Okay.
Um, and then I'm sorry, I think of 24. Yeah, and then season two
Mm.
was January of 25 till March of 25. So they did targeted little 3 month releases on these things. There's A1 Studios, which is part of Aniplex. Which you say that if you get around people that know anime, you get eye rolls on Aniplex
Really?
a lot. But I think it's
Really?
because their release schedule is sometimes really bad.
Oh. Aniplex is one of those, like, you see the Aniplex cards like the Aniplex,
Yeah, yeah.
and it every time I see that I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I don't know.
It
It's
may
like
it may be
nostalgia.
maybe some other things they don't get produced very quickly, and
No. Well, I watch everything in the rears. Like I'm usually watching stuff years after it
that's
comes out, so I'm not usually the kind of person like we are with like Dan to Dan. I'm like,
yeah.
well, when's the next one?
That's my frustration with anime. Even Dan to Dan Chainsaw Man has been long enough now that when the next stuff comes out, I'm going to still go back and watch it
Mm-hmm.
because you watch other anime and it kind of gets convoluted and all this thing. But this is actually a South Korean anime. I always assumed pretty much everything on Crunchyroll was Japanese and really never even thought about that or even noticed that that was a thing until halfway through the season, or what I might have been even the second season, where there are hunters in different parts of the world. They really portrayed the Japanese as a bunch of jerks.
Really?
And I was like, why would the Japanese company like be kind of trashing their own people like this? And it was like, oh, it's not. It's like South Korean. And it's like
Interesting.
South Korea is taking a shot across the bow there. Um, the world of this thing, I don't think I would have known this just from watching the show. Um, that there's a huge, larger developed world in the manga than there is what's presented in the show. So I had to look this up. And that again is what kind of draws me to this story is that I was kind of blown away by what they had on what they'd animated, and that's just scratching the surface of the whole story of this thing. Um, but the idea is that dungeons started appearing like 10 years before the story happens, and they're magical gates between the earth and these other dimensions. And this is kind of getting into the stuff that they don't explain at all in the show. That the dungeons or these portals are deliberately created by what they call, capital R, the rulers, to infuse humans with magic and mana to strengthen them for an oncoming war with the monarchs, capital N.
Okay.
And I'm like, I didn't even know. After watching a season of that, it's like I didn't hear anything about monarchs, or if I did, it just blew over my head that they
Mhm.
even if they even mentioned them. And the rulers are created by the ancient being. They don't say exactly what that
Okay.
is. Monarchs are physical beings. The rulers are spiritual,
Okay.
and they have to possess what they end up calling hunters in what they call the awakening. So when this all started happening in this world, you would get awakened, and you would all of a sudden have fighting abilities and things, but they were set. Like and they started to figure out that some people were really good, some people were kind of good, some people were not great, some people were not very good at all. So they started classing them
What did it depend on?
like your strength, your speed.
Yeah, but like, is there a reason why someone might be a lower rank than someone
I
else?
think it was because they're kind of creating, and I don't know that again. I haven't read the manga.
Mhm.
Kind of seemed to me like maybe they're creating sort of a hierarchy so
Okay,
that you had leaders and you had soldiers and you had pawns,
sure.
kind of thing. Um, but whatever you are, you either are a hunter or you're not. You can't become one, um, and you're capped at whatever level they give you. There are only like a few S ranks in each country. That's the top one, and then there's A, B, C, and D. Um, then dungeons appear, and then they are measured and classified by like a rank, like what's in the dungeon. Um,
It makes sense.
and
This is a rank dungeon, so if you're rank C, don't go in.
yeah, I think it's one of those things that probably in the lore of the story they developed over time. It's like
Mhm.
a dungeon opened up, they sent people in, they got slaughtered, they sent better people in, kind of figured out
Like where the rank is,
how
like
to
what rank
measure
you
the
should be.
energy of the dungeon and all this kind of stuff. Um, you send hunters in to close them. Inside there would be all kinds of stuff. There could be trolls, animals, knights, like mages, um, all kinds of like sort of mythical looking beasts. If the dungeon is not closed in 7 days, then the dungeon opens and everything that's in it can come out.
Okay,
And the story itself, that's all just sort of the backstory behind
that's
all of
the
this thing.
that's the premise, the setting.
Yeah. And this it focuses on Sung Jinwoo. They call him Jinwoo, who probably just out of high school age, 19 to 20 would
Mhm.
be my guess. Has a younger sister. His mom is terminally ill, and he's trying to figure out how to work so he can send his sister to college. He's kind of already conceded that he won't pursue a path like that. That he just needs to help her. Um, and in this world with all the hunters and stuff, you can get paid to clear dungeons. Um, there's associations and teams of people and all this stuff. It's become like this whole industry,
Society.
yeah, society really. He is a class D. He is the weakest of the hunters that you can be. So he's
That's good.
basically,
Good premise for a main character. Okay.
yeah, and then basically like a class D guy is like there to come in and carry supplies in for the other hunters. And part of what they harvest crystals and other loot and stuff out of the dungeons, and that's I guess what drives the economy of all this stuff.
And
Um,
I'm just gonna assume that I'm probably getting ahead of the cart here, but this guy, unbeknownst to anybody else, for some reason, can actually increase in level.
we're getting to that.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's a great premise for a show.
yeah.
Yeah.
He goes into early in this thing goes into a I think I can't remember if it's supposed to be a B or a C dungeon with B and C guys to defeat it. He's just supposed to be there to kind of help them. While they're in there, it opens to a second dungeon, and he's actually the tie-breaking vote that decides to go ahead and go see what's in that second dungeon. They go in there and they get mauled. He holds the door so his friends can like escape, um, and gets killed. But because of maybe just his personality or whatever, he was like recognizing that there were rules on these statues that were all around the place, and was trying to put them in order and trying to follow them. And as he's like getting killed, a message on the like appears in front of him on like a screen, like a screen that just shows up in front of him, like a little computer monitor that said it declared that like he cleared the secret quest, which I guess was deciphering all the messages, and you may become a player. And like yes or no, and of course it's yes. He wakes
Yeah.
up in the hospital, not even sure whether it actually happened or not. And there's the Hunter Association is there trying to sort of see what the deal is with this guy, how what happened with all these people. They went into this like low rank dungeon, they all got killed, and how did he get out? That's kind of the where the story starts. And then instantly when he's in the hospital, he starts getting messages that nobody can see, and they're like there's daily quests like do 100 push-ups and all these like little things.
Okay. Yeah.
And then they're
So it sounds like they took a gotcha game and put the gotcha mechanics into the story.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like he doesn't realize it, but there's penalty quests. Like if you don't complete the stuff, your daily stuff, then you have to go on you'll get thrown into a dungeon and have to fight your way back out.
Okay.
But as he does it and he kills like low level beasts and things, he levels up and starts to gain abilities. He finds loot boxes that have like keys and weapons and stuff, and he's the only person in this whole world that can do that.
Hmm.
Like everybody else, you can get the loot boxes and the keys and the stuff, but you come out and sell it and stuff like that, and maybe buy yourself a better sword or better armor, but you never change your level. Um, the Hunter Association comes in to check on him and see if he had a second awakening, which is a thing that can happen. It's very rare. I think that they're like, we've maybe seen it happen like one time or something. I don't remember those details. He still tests as a D, so he's not showing any change in level. And then it's weird, but it's really entertaining and it gets dark. There's a lot of stuff in the show that kind of gets dark, but not like creepy or bad. It's just like morally dark
Mm-hmm.
with the stuff. He joins a group that takes them in. Him and another kid tries to. They're basically taking them in there to to sacrifice them so they can just get stuff out of the dungeon. Um, but the because he levels up and he's having all these screens and stuff pops up, like he kills the boss that they thought was just gonna. These criminals thought was just gonna come and kill him. Um, and then the screen pops up and says it orders him to kill the group of people that brought him in there. So he gets ordered to, and he can't leave the dungeon. He can't do anything. So I think that's where it's these rulers that are kind of manipulating things, but you don't really understand that watching the show early. Um,
From everything you're saying, to me, I'm just imagining the cartoon from the '90s reboot.
I did not see that, but
Oh, okay. The premise of reboot was there were characters all computers have people inside of them, and that's how computers work. Is they're like little cities.
yeah,
And when someone loads a game in, there's this cube, the game cube comes down, and if the people inside the world they get stuck inside the game cube, they become NPCs, and they have to defeat the player.
yeah,
And it's just that it's and the reason I'm thinking of this is it sounds like in this world where this guy exists, there are like video game mechanics, but to him it's the real world.
yeah, and to
Yeah.
everybody else it is. It's like
Yeah.
there's nobody else is seeing the same little screens, and nobody else is leveling up. It's
Yeah,
like
but
only happening with him.
like these
And it's
monarch characters though, like they're almost like the external. They're the player, the game player.
and probably the rulers,
Yeah.
the monarchs are like the physical things that are in charge of. And he actually gets to where I didn't understand watching it that he actually encountered some of the actual monarchs as the show goes on.
Okay.
Um, he goes into a thing like where they send in prisoners that are hunter level people um, to go because they're really short of hunters, and the whole little storyline with that is like that's the father of the victims worked out a deal to get them sent in there so he could have them all killed because they got lighter sentences than he wanted. So there's a lot of stuff like that where it's like you think it's going to be like this little thing. These guys are just not going to listen, or they're going to try to steal stuff, and it's like no, it's like the father of a victim that these guys assaulted worked out a deal to send them all in and get them all killed, and you're like, wow,
Okay then.
that's kind of morally. It's one of those things you're like,
It's a good way to create people that are easily expendable and easily killable.
yeah.
Be like, look, these guys are terrible because of this.
But like
Watch them die.
as the show goes on, he starts mixing and going into groups, playing up being weak and
Mm-hmm.
going into dungeons with them in like a support role, but then also going into dungeons on his own, and he's leveling up like mad. Like he's going into things that would be really high class things and fighting them all by himself and getting his powers just shot through the roof. And then the other side part of the story is like that he gets a potion in one of the loot boxes that says like it's like one of three parts and it can heal anything.
Hmm.
And he's like, if it can heal anything, I could use this to. His mom's terminally ill, so that kind of becomes a sideline of the story that he's trying to get that. And then you get into like where the guilds start trying to recruit him. Um, there's another story going on with like there's an island where one of the dungeons broke free and slaughtered like most of their really good hunters, and that place still exists.
But the island's overrun with the monsters.
Well, that the island is getting ready to open again, so the associations are trying to figure out how to go back and handle that. Excuse me. Um, he goes in and fights probably the first time he fights like one of the actual monarchs that you've seen in the whole thing and kills him, and he has these minions of people. It's a couple episodes of this fight. He gains the title of like Shadow Monarch, which gives him the ability to resurrect anything that he kills and command it.
Okay.
And it's
necromancy,
kind of like a ghost form of it. You know, if like you got killed, he could, or he killed you, he could bring you back, and you'd be like this sort of like
yeah,
ghosty
a
looking.
lich. Yeah, I'm
ghosty-looking
thinking
thing,
D&D here now. Yeah.
and it's the ability is called like a rise. So he'll
Okay.
as he starts to go, he starts to accrue this like massive army of things that he can. Some of them are just low level soldiers, some of them are night level things, some of them are like he actually gets one of the monarchs and controls it, and even gets to a spot to where like one of the girls gets hurt and they're not going to be able to get her out in time, and one of the healers gets killed, and he actually resurrects the healer to heal the girl, and they're like, you can't do that. It's like that's you can't because you'll be in control of this guy. Like the the guy that gets resurrected like lets him know, contacts him or something. Can't remember how that happened. That he's okay with it and that he uses him to heal him, and then he just releases it. So the guy goes on and dies after.
Okay.
There's a lot of like stuff that's kind of heavy for for an anime, but I like that mixing that stuff in where it's not just this like silly fighting stuff where they're kind of bringing in a little bit like Death Note, where you start to bring in some of the moral questions. Is like, you is that okay? It's like that doesn't seem like it's something somebody should be able to do. He eventually has to reveal himself because he's gotten so powerful. I think he actually has to rescue one of the S class people from Korea, and because she sees that and she he figures that she's going to expose it anyway, and he ends up getting ranked as the 10th S class in South Korea.
I'm looking at some of the art for Sung Jinwoo.
Yeah.
And
he starts off as like his little kid, and like within weeks he's bulking up, and he's got a 6-pack, and the girls are starting to notice him and all that kind of stuff. And
but I think it's probably the Shadow Monarch form. He's got like a black armor.
Yeah.
And there's these like looks like spectral creatures that are around him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of it's a video game and a comic series called The Darkness. Familiar with it at all?
No.
In that the main character can control this ethereal force called the Darkness, and he like can form armor around himself, and he has these like little minions that he can bring up and like pretty much manifest from shadows.
Yeah.
It's very cool visuals.
And there's different associations that are teams and stuff, and they're all trying to get control of. They're trying to figure out a way to get him to join them so he can be part of their side. And you kind of feel like in the background too that there's just this growing fear of him.
Yeah, it kind of. I mean, he's the protagonist, right?
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things. It's almost a little bit like Eren in Attack on Titan. It's like, is he gonna be the good guy? Is he gonna be the bad guy? How's this gonna go? As they go back to this island that they don't think they have the ability to come. It's all these like ants. Like he's flying ants, and there's like a guy that almost looks sort of like a knight that's part ant and can talk to him. He's the king of the ants.
Mm-hmm.
I know it sounds kind of silly, but it's kind of cool. when all these associations try to fight the island, they're getting their guys slaughtered. And he shows up and he brings all the people he's resurrected, and just they destroy the ants, and then he subjugates the ruler of the ants too. And I think that's right at the end of the second season. I think that's kind of the point where people are like, we're not sure what to do about this. It's like he just showed up and he saved us all, but then he took control of all the stuff that all those ants that were killed. He controls all of them now, and it's like he's the one guy in the world that has a nuke, and everybody else has got like Civil War cannons, So, and at the very end of the thing, I did not understand this at all watching it. His father is part of the story, and apparently, in the past, he was he might have been the most powerful hunter, and then he just disappeared. So might be why the rulers selected him to be their vessel to do all this stuff, to kind of be this leader of the ruler side. There are monarchs that were watching the whole thing at the end of the second season that just disappear into a gate. So it kind of leaves you cliffhanging there too. And that's really the first time I think that you really saw anything that at least I understood to be the monarchs from the series. I think all of this stuff is in much more detail in the manga, and I don't know. I got to find some way to free up some more time because we're talking about it. We watched Akira and we're talking about that. I'll have to go through and do that manga. And that's a lot.
It's a lot.
And then this, I'm completely enthralled with the idea of going through and reading this.
Well, and this is something we'll have to discuss because I have been considering that sort of perspective on what we do here.
Yeah.
We'll discuss that later. We've told you in the beginning of this podcast that the format's fluid and we're constantly changing it, and there are some changes that we might institute in the future to really facilitate a longer format of consumption. Because like with The Matrix a couple months ago, like I would have really liked to have kind of gone through a little bit more of that media, but we kind of barreled through it real quick.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we'll take.
We can always come back to it.
Now it looks like there are 14 books. It started in 2018 or 2016, excuse me, and finished in 2021.
So it's finished.
This is what I'm saying. The final chapter was December 29th, 2021.
I don't think I want to enjoy the show.
Yeah.
It's almost like movies is the same way. I know anime stays a whole lot closer to the manga.
Yeah.
I think they were consolidating a lot of ideas to get through these first couple seasons and maybe sort of saving it to kind of have it be more of a reveal and a bigger final third season kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. One of the benefits of watching the media, and I think I don't know if I said this on the podcast, but I have decided from Night Shift from last month that I do think watching the movie first and then reading what it was based off of, that's the way I like to do it. Simply because the stuff it's based off is almost always better. And also, like with this, when you're reading the manga, like the voices of the character, like it helps you establish what the characters are like.
Yeah.
Like I remember I was a big fan of the Lynch Dune movie. So when I read Dune, the visuals I had in my head was based off of the Lynch version of Dune.
Yeah.
So it does help your imagination fill in the stuff that your imagination generally has to fill in.
Did you watch and/or read Chainsaw Man?
I watched, not read. No, I bought the box set of it. I want to read it at some point, but I've only watched it.
I read it before, and I still enjoyed seeing the show come out.
Mm-hmm.
But I was watching it with my son. That's kind of my biggest regret on that thing. When you get to Makima, when she has the people at the temple, and she's offing everybody by killing those prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was like a really powerful sort of moment in the thing. But seeing my son see it happen in the anime live react to it was like, man, I wish I hadn't read that.
Wish you didn't know about it,
because I knew it was coming, and it was still cool to see. But it was like I like those. I like those reveals, and I love the way they illustrate stuff, and I like the way Japan tells stories. And
I mean, I'm thinking about like Game of Thrones, kind of the whole Red Wedding in Game of Thrones. I just imagine if you had read the books, and of course, I don't know how close everything was in Game of Thrones book versus the show, but yeah, I can only imagine what it was like for people who knew what was coming. Yeah.
I have not watched a second of Game of Thrones.
You're not missing much. That's definitely one of those things where it's like,
we talked about it a couple times here at the house. Like, do you think you want to try to track that down and watch it? And we're like, no,
you're not.
I don't think so.
I'd first tell you to like watch Record of Lodoss War or something.
I think too many of the things that I've just had enough of, and watching media are things that probably exist in that, and I don't need any more of that. At this point, honestly,
the complaints about Game of Thrones are more in universe. It's like, this doesn't make sense, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're not really missing much.
Yeah. That Solo Leveling, it's awesome.
Sounds cool.
I would love to come back and maybe sometime and kind of go through the manga and explore like the whole world behind all of this stuff and where it ends up going.
Now, what you could do is, since it's going season by season, and you've said before how when you're not watching something in the rears, when you're keeping up with it as it's coming out, you kind of have to rewatch it to prepare for the next season.
Yeah.
So you could like just read up to whatever chapter is up to season 2.
When you flip a page and there's something that you hadn't seen before, like, nope, stop.
Well, I would Google how far should I read for season 2 of Solo Leveling? It'll say chapter whatever. And there you go. Stop at that chapter. And that'll get you prepared for season 3.
I went back and watched like probably the final 7 episodes of My Hero Academia in the second to last season, so I could watch the last season, because I just had gotten so far removed from that. I wanted to refresh on that. and I literally had to do that to kind of remember where the story was. And unfortunately, kind of didn't really regret it. It I don't know. There's a lot of interjection. I think Western interjection into probably the last episode or two. That was one of those things that kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth on the series, and it's unfortunate because it is a pretty good series too. But I think some of the stuff probably wasn't even translated correctly. I think we talked about how when they bring stuff over, we interject our versions of things into.
Yeah, it's the problem with localization.
That was the word I was
they
looking
try,
for, was localization.
Yeah, they try to make it meaningful to our culture. I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
I think
just tell us what they wanted to say in the original.
I think the localizers for the last episode, at least, or maybe the one before that, were people that you might also see screaming on a stage or on a step after a certain election.
you definitely, if you start getting into like the localization differences and stuff like that, you really, it's a black hole of just angry people on all sides. It's just, anyway.
I'll probably go back and watch this when the third season comes out again, just to watch the second season, because it was really that enjoyable. It wasn't like, man, I've got to go back and watch that again. I'd be like, awesome. Now I have a reason to go back and watch that again.
Cool.
So I won't rank it up there. I won't try to rank it anywhere until I see where it goes. But it was the most enjoyable thing I've watched in a while. So
glad you enjoyed it.
If you're a fan of anime, watch it.
Okay.
And if you're not into anime and you want something to start out with, my wife is familiar with anime. She's not a huge fan.
Yeah, it sounds like a very anime.
She was 3 episodes into this. She was. I'm always kind of worried of I have to watch her and elbow her and see if she's going to fall asleep. And she was into this one. So
nice.
Yeah.
All right.
That is the major one that I bring in the appetizers. I have a few smaller things we'll do here upcoming, but the next one will be you.
Yeah, I'm going to be talking about the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. We'll be back with that.